Hey, what's going on, my freaks and geeks? Welcome to the Score Roundtable podcast. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight, all of our viewers and listeners from YouTube all the way to our website. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us every week. And of course, we're coming with another great podcast for you tonight. Guys, what can I say about our next guest? She's an artist, cartoonist, illustrator, comic book creator, and on top of all of that, an Eisner Award nominee. She does it all, guys. So can we all give a warm square round table welcome to Miss Nicole Goux?
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome.
I'm appreciating the new part of my bio.
It's just a little flex. Do you put that? Because I know when I email everybody, I have a ton of crap like on the bottom of what I do. So trust me. Do you put that Eisner in your email anywhere? I know
I
I
haven't
would.
I haven't put it in my email. I like hand type my signature at the bottom for some reason because I'm too lazy
Okay.
to figure out how to put it in. But I did change all of my social media and my website to put it in there. I was like, as soon as that hit, I was like putting it on Twitter and
Nice.
Instagram.
You got to. My thing is, why be nice? Let everybody know. We gotta,
Exactly.
Right?
Go ahead and flex
you
that.
Well,
gotta, you
now
gotta
we
flex
gotta
it.
get out the vote.
But like you were saying, it's such a prestigious thing. So to even be nominated, that's such a big deal, man. Did you and Dave have some kind of party when you found out? Did you celebrate? I know I would have acted crazy.
No party, but we did go out to a dinner that was more expensive than we could afford. So
See, that's how you gotta do it.
yeah,
You gotta ball out
Spare no
sometimes.
expense,
You
right?
do.
Spare no
yeah.
Yes.
expense.
Spare no expense.
So that's awesome, Nicole. I'm glad to hear it. That's really good stuff. So once again, it's not every day that we have a Eisner award nominated guest. So thank you for taking time out of your schedule to chat with a couple of nerds. We really appreciate that.
Yes.
I mean, that's who we make the books for.
But I like to ask them just as a icebreaker and also just as a mental health check. I just want to know because there's a lot going on. How have you been dealing with the pandemic, being inside? I watched a little bit of I think you and Dave's YouTube post talking about the pushback from everyone is Tulip. Like, how have you been dealing with all of that good stuff?
It's been a ride for sure. Initially, I work from home anyway, and I'm the homebody. So the first year and a half of the pandemic, it was stressful. There was so much going on, especially with all the BLM rallies and just so much
Yeah.
political movement and momentum and kind of collective trauma for everybody happening. So it was
Oh yeah.
you know, all of that on top of being sequestered in our homes all by ourselves. And I think for me, the being stuck at home thing was easier than it is for most people for a long time. And then I hit a year and a half and I was like, I'm done. I gotta hang out with people. This is making me crazy.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
so weird for me because that's not normally how I am. Like I like hanging out with friends and stuff, but I don't crave it in that way normally. And so it was like, oh no, this is
Mhm.
really affecting even the people who are used to being at home. That and I was working on too many books for too much time. And so I got really burnt out mid pandemic and I had to take a really long break from doing basically anything. But I
Understood.
had the luxury to be able to do that, which is so amazing. I had
Yeah.
just finished a book and was able to take that break, which so many people don't have the ability to do that. And I felt really fortunate.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And it's pretty much the same here. It's like personally, like I have an extrovert meter, like to where I'm just like, okay, I want to go out, but like on hour two, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to get back to the house.
Yeah.
Like, like that's just
That social
that's
meter, right?
yeah,
Looking
yeah.
at the door and everything, like
Yeah, I'm like, okay, it's time to go.
it's
Like
time to get out of
I'm one
here.
of the first people to leave the party. That's how. But no, it definitely happened. But it's really great, and we talked to a lot of people because we started I say this over and over again, but we started the podcast during the pandemic, and the one thing that really helped us out was getting to speak to people like you, people from all over the world that we never. I didn't think I would ever get a chance to talk to, so I think I've been blessed in that way to get that
Yeah,
opportunity. Oh,
there's
go
this
ahead.
thing I've
Yep.
learned about making strides in your career or getting things that you want, and that's
Hmm.
to just ask. I think specifically with comics too, the bar to entry is so low if you just ask people if they want to do something. Like most of us are pretty much, yeah, cool, I'll do an interview.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
No, and it is. You guys are so nice. Like with the pretty much anything in like nerd fandom, like everybody is so like sweet. Like from anime to comic books. Actually, I was just chatting with one of my friends before the show, and she was just like, "I don't get it. Okay, you have all these guests. Do they have to sign like some kind of application to get on your show?" I'm flattered, but it's more like me saying, "Please," in the emails.
Hey, we'd love to have you on the show. Come on out.
Right, right.
Please join
But
us.
it's basically, yeah, it's basically just that though, just reaching out to you guys. And
Mhm.
like I said, I've had Dave on the show a while back, and so yeah, comic book creators, all of you guys are super duper nice. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, I
Definitely.
was surprised by
Yep.
how like nice you guys are and how much you guys wanted to come on. We thought we'd have to hassle people down or whatever. Y'all were just like, yeah, sure. What time? We're free. You know, they were like, oh, I'm free this month. I'm like, okay, fine, cool. Let's book it.
Yeah, I mean, there are obviously some exceptions, but my experience has been that the majority of creators in comics are just like lovely, wonderful people. Such a
Seriously.
nice
Yeah, I agree.
community to be in.
Oh yeah, definitely. I completely agree. And I wanted to know more about your background a little bit. Just where are you from? Like where did you grow up? And also what kind of led you to have an affinity for cartoons and illustration? And even how did that shape your style and how you illustrate your comic books?
Yeah, so I'm from the LA area, so like the valley and then the suburbs for a long time. So I grew up here and I think it's a pretty liberal place. I moved to a slightly more conservative suburb just north of LA. So there wasn't a lot of exposure to that. My brother was really into comics. I read newspaper strips every single day when I got home from school. That was like,
Nice.
and I didn't even realize for a long time that was like comics, because there's this weird divide, I think, in the way that we think about the different types of comics, where like
Mhm.
newspaper
Yeah.
comics are one thing and superhero comics are another thing and indie comics are a separate thing and manga is a separate thing, when in actuality they're all the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I
It's like
had
the
all these
two Twix
divides.
factories.
Yeah, so like I read newspaper strips every single day. My
Mhm.
brother read comics, but my idea of American comics was so narrow. I thought it was just superhero stuff, and like at
Mhm.
the time, I was not super interested in that. And then in probably like middle school, a little bit before, I got really into manga, and I was obsessed with manga and anime for like 5 years, 6 years, something like that, to like
Wow.
middle of late high school. And then I just dropped off completely because I had been drawing since I was really little. My parents took me to all kinds of museums and stuff. We were like an art family, and I was very lucky in that. So I discovered really early on that I wanted to draw, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. And there was like a period in middle school where I was like, I'm gonna move to Japan and be a mangaka. And then I moved on and I was like, I'm gonna work at Disney, I'm gonna be an animator. And then I got to college and I was like,
Yep.
I'm gonna do drawing and painting and just do like life painting all this time. And then I was like, there's no direction in that. I don't know where I'm gonna fucking make any money. And then I moved to illustration and I was like, okay, there's a direct line to an actual career here. I could get editorial work. I could do like book covers or maybe like children's books. But I never really figured out how to do it or how to make the right connections. And then after college, I met Dave, who is my co-collaborator partner on most of our work. And he was like, hey, you want to make an 8-page comic? And I was like, not really. But I was working at like a toy company doing illustration for them. And I didn't know where I was going. And I had some free time. So I was like, all right, let's try this. And as soon as I tried that, and then also started exploring like zine fest and stuff, which I don't know how I missed that through all of growing up, but that was just not a thing where I lived at all. And so realizing that there were these zine fests with these illustrations and comic zines and like just this huge range of what comics could be that was not just one specific Marvel and DC house style, really made me realize, oh, this is so broad. You can do anything with this. I could fit what I do into this medium and be able to tell stories that way. And so that like really changed things for me. And I got totally obsessed, obviously, with making comics and reading comics again.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's definitely.
One question.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
I
What
know what's coming already.
comic strips did you read? Like in the newspapers?
I was gonna
Oh,
ask the same
Chris?
thing.
I would read like literally every single one of them. In mine, it was like everything from non sequitur to zits to baby blues to
Yeah.
family circus, which I never really liked. We didn't
Mhm.
have, oh no, we did have Marmaduke. We didn't have any of the like Superman, Spider-Man comics or anything. I didn't even know that was a thing. I read a lot of Garfield. I
Hey.
read, God, so many. What was the other one that I really liked? I don't know. There was a bunch that I read, even though I didn't like them, because I just enjoyed reading the comics. So it was like, I would always get like, I'd come home and mom would take the like most of the paper and I'd be like, where's the, what was it called at the time? It was not
It was
Weekend or.
it was a Saturday something. It was because I used to.
But we
take
had it
to my
every day.
grandmother. Oh wow, we just used to
Mhm.
get it on Saturdays.
I thought it was
Enjoyed
Sundays. We see it on Sundays.
Yeah, we
We
got it
had
on
the big
Saturdays.
paper on Sundays, but I think it was
Mhm.
maybe like in the entertainment section or something. Yeah, it was called something specific. I don't remember anymore, but it did change at a certain point. Like they like switched sections or something like that. But I would
Mhm.
always grab it and then read it front and back while I like ate my chips and salsa with my little snack after school or whatever.
Yeah, I used to read Calvin and Hobbes through the big,
Yes.
big books.
I was
Yeah.
Like I
gonna
used to get the
say,
big
Yeah.
old books from the
yes.
library, and I used to just read the entire
Yes,
thing.
bro.
And then Foxtrot too. Like I used to mess with the Far Side was good too.
Oh yeah, we had the Far Side calendars, the like rip-off
Yeah.
ones.
They were dope.
Yeah.
I would always read Dilbert. I just love
Oh, Dilbert,
how
yes.
dry he is.
Yeah.
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 Bummer about
Yeah.
him being kind of.
No, that dry comedy. Yes, I'm the same way, definitely.
Mhm.
But of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
I definitely had the Boondocks too.
I think we had
Definitely
Boondocks for a little while, and then it like disappeared from our paper, which.
Oh no, it did the same with us. It was there
Yeah.
for a minute,
Yeah.
then it was gone. Yeah.
Yeah, we had the LA Times. It wasn't like a local thing, so I don't know what happened there. But then there was the show for a while, which was cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is pretty dope. Which somebody needs to bring back real soon. I mean,
I mean,
dang.
I don't know how they're gonna bring it back
Well,
with
true.
what's his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the path of
John Witherspoon.
John
True,
Witherspoon,
true.
yeah.
Mm.
Like I don't know. Oh, I guess they could just probably just like reuse like his like stuff they didn't use in the actual show or whatever. And
Swap another character.
that's true. Or get like one of those people that's like a impersonator and just have them like impersonate his character.
That could work too, and that's
Yeah.
actually a good transition because I love the style of that show. And Nicole, I think you're great. The one thing that kind of broke my heart was that you said you fell out of anime. Like, what happened there?
I'm back reading some manga and stuff again.
Okay.
I
Okay.
fell out of it just
Oh,
because
I already
like
know.
I think I was getting to that like weird phase where I was like, oh, I'm too cool for this now. But I also there's something that I've realized, which is not the case. That's a dumb opinion that I had when I was like 17 or whatever. I had this realization about anime and manga, reading it now as an adult, where there's
Mhm.
such a broad range of what you can read within manga and anime because
Yes.
obviously it's just a medium. It could be anything.
Right.
But the stuff that I was reading, the way that it is written, the way that the storytelling is, it feels emotionally like it feels to be a middle schooler and like a teenager. So the shoujo stuff, a lot of the shonen
Mhm.
stuff, like the like super high intensity, emotional, high stakes when you're just like high school bullshit. Like I realized that doesn't connect with me in the same way that it did when I was younger, specifically because it is told as being a teenager feels, and I'm not a
Right.
teenager anymore.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
I still appreciate a lot of that stuff, and I'll watch some of it occasionally. Like I'll still go back and watch Yasha and Ranma and those kinds of things. But I don't spend as much time on it because a lot of the stuff is tonally just doesn't sit as well with like my sensibilities anymore. It's still super quality. And I think it's
Oh, yeah.
actually incredible that they're able to tell stories in a way that feels like being a certain age feels. I think it's amazing. But I'm
Mhm.
more like, I tend to go towards stories that are like a little bit more, it's not even that they're more mature. It's just like the storytelling is more mature, I would say. The only ones I've read recently are like, I'm reading Witch Hat Atelier. I'm reading number 5. I'm reading, I got the big double volume of Nausicaa and Hayao Matsumoto stuff. I read, Cats of the Louvre and those kinds of things. I'm reading Ping Pong. So still read it. It's just
Okay,
like
yeah.
just less.
Yeah.
So you're still in the club. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, because
Looking at
Nicole,
old
they
stuff.
the anime police. Trust me.
Oh,
I get beat up every
Look,
day about it.
Demetrius
Yeah.
is way worse than me. Okay.
hey, what you mean? What you talking about? I'm not. I just feel like trying to put
Bitches
you
be
guys
ready to beat
on.
me down.
I try to put
There's
you guys
so much
on, and you
good
just
stuff.
like, no.
It is.
I think
It
it
is.
takes just finding the one that like speaks to you, because like
Oh, yeah.
there's so many different types of stories within it. And so maybe you love Cowboy Bebop because it's like so stylized and has like jazz elements and is so cool.
Yeah.
Or maybe you like Attack on Titan or whatever it is. They're so different that of course not everybody's gonna love all of them.
There's an anime, or sorry, there's a manga for probably anything you can think of.
Literally.
That's how broad it is.
Yeah.
Like I went and I looked on a list like back when I was like in college, and the list of amount of shows or mangas were like kept going, and I was like, yeah, there's too much content, but
There's
it's nice.
Yeah, there's this convention in, I think it's in Tokyo, called Comiket, where literally the entire floor changes every day and it's organized by genre. So the entire show is like one genre per day. Imagine having a Comic-Con where there's enough content of the same genre where it's like
Nice.
the entire floor is, that's how much,
Yeah,
that's not even, it's like a fraction of it, you know?
I lose my
Exactly.
mind if I saw that. I don't think I'd be able to. I don't think I'd be able to cope with that. Like I would just walk in and I would just feel like
I think it's 7 days and maybe the biggest comics convention in the world. I think there's one in Russia too that's huge, but yeah, it's
That's
giant.
insane. So on the opposite end of that spectrum, so I know you've been in the DC realm too, of course.
Mhm.
So how do you feel about a lot of what's going on with Marvel and the DC and just like the superheroes being made into the, I guess, the main form of cinema right now? Like that's all is a Batman movie after Batman movie after Batman movie.
or a
It's-
Hey,
Spider-Man
man, why you had to
movie
come?
or a
Why you had to
Yeah.
come Batman
I
like
mean-
that, bro?
I love Batman. I'm just saying.
Nah, you right though. You absolutely right.
yeah.
I think that there are great things about it, and I think there are very bad things about it. For as a comic creator, I think it's like anything that makes more people more interested in comics, I am happy about. I think I wouldn't say that like comic sales have necessarily really been that affected by MCU and DCU movies, but I don't think you can say that they're not affected at all. And if it makes even just a few people interested in walking into a shop and like finding out more about these characters, I think that's fantastic. I also think a lot of movies are really good and really fun. And do I think they're like ultimate cinema? Probably not, but I enjoy watching them. I've watched like most of the Marvel ones and like maybe like half of the DC ones. And I think they're entertaining and they're fun and they're these huge, big blockbuster movies that have like incredible casts. I also think that should not be our bar for cinema, right? Like it's a fun,
Yeah.
entertaining thing, but it shouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily be where we're dumping all of our money. Like
Yeah,
we
the big
should be-
CGI fight. Yeah, we gotta.
Yeah.
That's where all the money's going.
Yeah.
The
People
last
not
act
even in the
CGI
scenes
fight.
anymore. They're not even in scenes anymore.
I
They're like
know.
looking at the scene.
I have a problem with CG in general, and I think it's getting better, but I really, especially when it's like an entire scene that's all CG, I fucking hate
Yes.
it. I hate it because like
agree.
it doesn't feel like it's real. It doesn't feel like you're in it. Give me
Right.
some practical things. Like
Yes.
why does his cape need to be fucking CG? It doesn't. Like, you know, like
Exactly.
there is something about practical effects that just make a film look so much more grounded. And I look at these movies from the 90s and stuff and early 2000s, and a lot of that time I'm like, that looks better than the stuff that's coming out now.
Yes.
Because it's minimal, right? Like it's supplemented as opposed to the entire thing being all CG.
It's like back in the day, like CGI wasn't that great. So they were like, we have to be practical. That CGI ain't going to save us any fights. We got to do it. Now they're like, oh, yeah, we don't need people to do this. Like, we'll just have Superman clone do this with Batman clone over here.
Even look at the way that, I don't know if you have watched the like behind the scenes things for the Mandalorian stuff, where they built this room that is essentially like a big like TV screen, a domed TV screen, and they shot in front of that instead of using a green screen and putting an image in afterwards. And there's something about that that's still not perfect, but it is so much more convincing than just like a full CG background.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Right.
they still they use a lot of practical stuff like on the Mandalorian and like Boba Fett, like as far like with the little puppet for the little baby,
man.
the Grogu, that's practical.
Yeah.
Your Grogu
I know
in the
you
back
feel like
there.
they're
He's so
chilling.
cute.
But yeah, that's why I've always loved Star Wars, because even when it got like full CGI, they still use a lot of practical stuff. I mean
Star Wars is a perfect example, because you look at those original movies and they look so much better than. You remember when they went back in and remastered all the editions and put like CG monsters and stuff in them, and I was like, this looks so much worse than they did before.
I was like, what?
Special editions, and then you can't get them anymore without it. Like, they don't exist. It's very frustrating.
So you're just like stuck with it.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you all aren't fans of the Michael Bay Transformers series.
Oh man, like you go in those movies.
It was okay, but
you go in those movies to waste time.
ridiculous.
You go to those movies just to waste some time. Like, you're like, hey, I got an hour and a half. I ain't got to do nothing else.
They
go in here and
became
watch
knights
this.
and all of that, and the round table. I was like, dude, you lost me, bro.
And they put them in the red coats and whatever. They put them in like, the red coats and stuff, and the abolition. I was like,
part of the reason that doesn't work is because the designs are so overdone. If they were more simplified, I think it would work better. But yeah, I mean, that first movie's fun. I think I've only watched maybe the first two, but after that point, I was like, this is just off in the deep end. I don't know if I need to engage with that.
It's turning into, it's like Fast and Furious with even more cars.
Totally,
it's really bad.
No, let's not even talk about Fast and the Furious. How they had my man driving in space. They had a space flying car in the last one. The only reason I know about that is because I saw a clip and I was like, yeah, I think I got out of the Fast and the Furious series when I needed to. Like,
it's just. Like you said, it just like weakens the movie experience, because even with the newest Spider-Man, I'm looking at it and I'm like, Tom Holland has like never been in that Spider-Man outfit. So
I haven't seen the new one yet, but which is, I know, horrible. But like I watched. So okay, great. I watched Civil War and I watched, I guess it would have been Endgame with him in it, and he is so great in that role. And then it took me a really long time to watch Homecoming because it was not on streaming and I'm cheap. But I finally watched it and I was like, he is so great in this role, but this movie is not that great. Everybody liked it, I think.
I agree.
But I was like, it's fine. He doesn't feel like Peter. Like the suit is doing like all the heavy lifting for him, so it's like it's taking away some of his power as Spider-Man. I feel like, I don't know. I really wanted to like it, but I was like, this is kind of fine.
The script don't help him out either. The scripts do not help him out. They really don't. They
at all.
Like, you can watch it the first time, but you're not gonna go watch it again. You're not gonna go back and rewatch it. You're like, oh, I saw it. I go back. I'm gonna start noticing things.
That's how I feel about a lot of the MCU movies. There's a few of them that I'm like, yeah, these are good rewatches. Like, I really like Ragnarok. I really like Civil War. Infinity War and Endgame are very good. But like a lot of the other ones, I'm like, I'll try and watch them again and be like, oh, this is not as good as I remember it being.
Exactly. High from getting comic book movies is gone. Like the high, because when you first started with Iron Man, you were just happy to see Iron Man on the screen. You didn't care what he did. Now you're like, you're invested. Now you're like, okay, these movies aren't hitting the same way they used to. Like,
well, they
what's
did it
going on?
There's so many of them, 20 years of movies now, and it's just more and more. And so the more they oversaturate it, I feel like it takes away some of the quality of them.
I agree.
And they're just churning them out, and they're fine. They're entertaining still, but like, I don't know.
The thrill is gone a little bit.
Yeah, it feels like they're like trying to get to certain points as quickly as they possibly can. And like I said, we did a review on what movie was it? The new Doctor Strange movie. And I said they just what they need to do is utilize the TV shows and put them in the middle of big movies, just like cram in like a good couple TV shows, so you got some time to breathe between the movies. And also you can introduce those characters like Moon Knight and all the other characters without them having to do what they did in, what was it called? Eternals, where they were just, what do they call that? Where they were explaining everything. They were like, oh yeah, we need to explain all these things, and then we need to give you the movie. Like
Right.
they had to set up all these things, and then they were like, "Here's
Right,
the
I
movie,"
don't,
and I'm like,
Well,
"No." But
I think that's what they're doing now, though, because they're doing it with Young Avengers. They're doing
Yeah.
it. They're having everybody have their little shows and then bringing them together for these bigger movies and stuff. So, I think they're trying to do that, but also if the shows aren't good,
yeah, I agree.
Right, because
Like,
talking about CGI, that She-Hulk CGI is,
oh
I
yeah,
haven't
that's
watched
pretty
the trailer
bad.
yeah,
yet.
that's
Oh,
you got it.
Oh,
That
That-
CGI
Nicole, don't even do
is
it.
an
Oh,
abomination.
no.
No pun intended.
Man,
I see what
for
you
real.
did there.
I mean, I felt that way even with Moon Knight. I was like,
Yes.
why is so much
Yeah.
in CG? I don't understand. Also, I don't know that I need like giant gods.
Like that season, not spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen it, but there was no stakes in that last fight. I was like, why are you struggling with an
There
old man
wasn't.
with a cane? Like, what are we doing here? Why
Yeah.
is my man beating your butt and them full moons out, man? What are we doing? I'm just like
Yeah.
invested. I'm like, dude, you sold me a show. I'm waiting for you to give me that. And the stakes weren't there. And I feel like that's a lot of
That's a
kind
lot
of
of the
problem. That's
Marvel
the problem
movies.
is the stakes aren't really as high as they need to be. Like,
I think
Right.
comic shows have a history of that. So look at
Yeah.
Daredevil, look at all these shows where like you don't even get them in the suit until the last episode. Most of the
Mhm.
time.
exactly.
No, literally.
Yeah.
No, yeah, because that Falcon
sure.
and the Winter Soldier, we were waiting forever, and then when we
Oh, I
got
know.
Nicole, like we got y'all gonna get me started. We got a suit.
Come on, Pat.
Here
Let's
we
go.
go.
I got my music cues. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm just like, why do we get a suit from Wakanda? That looks like it was like made by a second grader. I'm like,
Like it was made. It
what
was
is
a
that
cosplay.
suit?
It looked like a
Dude,
cosplay.
it's a
that
cosplay.
suit that was made in
Oh
the
my
States,
gosh.
bro. That suit like that made by
Oh my-
Wish.
It was made by Wish.
I'm like the box that they gave him the suit in looked better than the suit. I'm like,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's some things where they're getting a little.
What happens though is like the shows don't have as much money and the movies were already struggling. So if you're gonna put a bunch of CG in it in a show that doesn't have the money to make that look good or doesn't have the budget to make a good suit.
Here's the thing about getting back on She-Hulk. Like you didn't have to use CGI. You could have gotten a built actress to play her when she's hulked out. And you could have saved you some money.
True.
And Disney got so much money. I'm sorry. I don't understand why they can't throw the CGI in there like a better than that. They got money. Like they got
Disney
Marvel,
being
they
cheap.
got Star Wars. Like the money's there. Mandalorian does really great numbers.
They're doing too much.
Yeah,
That might
that's
be
what
it,
it
yeah.
is. They're doing
Yeah.
too much, and they thought they could handle it all at one time, and now it's catching up with them. Because you got her standing next to Bruce, who looks like he does in all the other movies. That's because they've done it so many times.
Exactly.
And then
Copy
you have
paste.
her, and it looks like very uncanny. So it's gonna throw people off. And what I'm hoping happens is that they fix it in like post. And that's just like the first render of it, and they were just trying to get out the trailer.
I mean, look at the Sonic movies, man.
True.
Great
Hey,
example.
Now
we
that's
gonna
Sonic. That was a rat.
We gonna get that. That's gonna be the final product, dude. Watch. That's gonna be what we gonna see. You gonna get used
Nah,
to
it will be though.
No, that's definitely the final product. They're done.
What does that do on the cans? The green giant. She looked like the green giant.
Jolly Green Giant.
Jolly Green Giant. That's what I came in my head. I was like, that's what she looked like. You got
Don't
the
do it to
same.
the Green
You got the
Giant.
same.
Don't do the
you got-
Jolly Green Giant
don't
like
put that
that,
on
bro.
her.
You got the same like kind
tried
of
his
color
best.
palette and everything. Like,
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, Nicole, like speaking about like comics and manga and stuff, how have those things cultivated your art style?
Well, I think manga definitely has been a huge influence on me. Like, even if I am not looking at it that much anymore, I wouldn't say that my style necessarily looks like manga. But so much of my childhood I spent like literally tracing or copying like manga images. Like that's how I learned to draw, is I would print out stuff from the internet of like my favorite animes, and I had a stack of white paper that my mom would get me from her work, and I would just copy them. Like literally how I learned to draw. So I think the DNA of that is in there, and it will never go away.
That's awesome.
And I think currently the closest one I would say that I look like or still look at would be Miyazaki stuff, which that's not an original opinion, but like it's beautiful and amazing. And I look at things like Nausicaa, which are just incredible. And even now, like I'm reading Witch Hat Atelier, and every frame of that book is perfect. partially because they go in after it's already been published in the magazines, and for the trades they redraw everything that was wonky, which is insane to me.
That's nice.
Like
Yes.
their deadlines are fucking crazy over there, and so
Right.
Yeah.
they have to churn out, I think it's 18 pages a week or something, which
Oh, wow.
she has assistants,
Yeah.
but still it's insane. But that's why they go back afterwards and they make sure everything is perfect. So those pages are just pristine, and the storytelling is so great, and the story is about making things, so it resonates with me, obviously. It's like using magic to talk about drawing. But I think when I did Shadow the Batgirl, I had to go in and read like a bunch of cast comics, and I read the New 52 Babs comics, and I spent a long time looking at that stuff because I was not someone who knew how to draw cities or action or any of that stuff. So I really had to take and learn from superhero comics to like understand how to tell stories that way and how to draw that type of action. I don't know whether I was successful or not because I was learning in the process of doing it, but I think I really, like, it was crash course on learning how to do that, which I think was really interesting and fun and pushed me in a direction that I don't know that I would have gone if I hadn't had that opportunity. So that was super cool.
Do you find yourself doing that a lot, like learning as you go? Because I see a lot of your work, and it's like really, it's very stylized. Like even like Everyone Is Tulip. You have this pink and blue kind of motif going on over and over again in the book. Like, where does that come from? Do you have a good idea of how you're going to attack it before you get into creating your work of art, or do you just change and figure out different things to put into your work as you go?
I think every book is an experiment for me. You have an idea of what it's going to be. Maybe you set out to do something a little different, and then when you get in there, that part goes away, and you just go back to how you naturally draw. Sometimes you are doing something that you didn't know was going to happen, and it ends up in the book, like the color stuff. So I co-colored that with Ellie Hall, who did an amazing job. But the ideas, there were a couple ideas that we came up with in the get-go of the blue being representative of the internet and phones and those types of things, the flashbacks being the purple tones, the real world quote unquote being the like full color pink stuff. So those things were set up from the beginning in ideas that we came up with, but as you work on the book, those things grow and change. And again, spoilers, sorry for anyone who hasn't read it, but like the last panel of the book, like when she quote unquote accepts and becomes Tulip, it starts in regular color and then moves into the internet color. And like ideas like that came through making the book. So I think every time you're working on something, there's so much that you don't know until you're doing it. And sometimes that's because you literally don't know how to draw cards and you have to learn on the job. And sometimes that's, oh, I discovered this motif or this theme that I want to repeat, or while I was working on a book, I started reading so-and-so's comic and their layouts inspired me to do this or whatever. And I don't think that anybody can make a book with it like clearly in their mind 100% before they make it. That just, there's so much that you figure out while you're doing it. Maybe if you're like Chris Ware, he seems like he plans a lot. But
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, yeah. So it's for me, it's always an experiment. If you look at like my earlier work compared to what I'm making now, I feel like, especially since I started making comics, I don't know, 7 years ago at this point, something like that. And when I started, I had made one-page comic ever. I had drawn a lot, but I had never made a comic before. So I had this like accelerated learning process where I was like learning by making the books that we were making. So like basically taught myself how to do it by reading comics, talking to other cartoonists, and literally doing it. Because I don't really know, there's a lot of theory about comics, there's a lot of rules, there's a lot of that stuff, and those things are important, but I don't think that you can really understand how to do it without physically making a book. My advice for anybody who wants to get into making something is always just make something small and try it, because you're going to learn so much in that like 10 pages or whatever you start out with that is going to inform everything you make from then on forward, that like you could think about it for years and never understand as much by like actually physically making something.
That definitely makes a lot of sense. So it's like I said, you got to learn by doing it. And one
Yep.
thing that I really appreciate about your art is, of course, the story is one thing and it's definitely pulls you in, but also just like the environment, like I can almost smell it. And it's really vivid and lived in. So I think that's really cool because I do own the Tulip and Fuck Off Squad, and I really love the vibe of those books. Like you definitely have a specific style, so it's really cool. Yeah, you're welcome. And one of the things that I really thought was interesting about Tulip, like I want to know the inception of the idea of like from start to finish, because you talk about at the end of the book, of course, spoilers for anybody that hasn't read it,
Mhm.
but Becca becoming this character. And I had a
Mhm.
conversation with Joshua, my brother, while we were reading the book, and I know that person. I was like, "Oh, that's Poppy. That's Filthy Frank. That's such and such." I know
Yeah.
people like this that live in their performance art, and I
Mhm.
kind of wondered how that was mentally because I'm anybody. I talk about this all the time, but I'm such a huge like comedy fan, and I have people that I love as comedians, but they never, you'll see them in interviews and they never leave their shtick. It's like they're always that person. And I'm like, what does that do to you? So I'm just like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, it's all about that kayfabe, right? Like,
it's that kayfabe, man. Yeah.
and honestly, that is where the idea came from. Of we were watching YouTube. I watched Poppy. We watched what's her name, Bella Dalvita was one of them.
I,
Like, there's
I
a couple
think,
other
yeah.
ones
Hmm.
um, where their quote unquote public persona is the character that they play, and you
Right.
know that's not who these people are. Of course,
Right.
it's not. And so, like, how does that happen? What does it do to your psyche to be constantly pretending to be someone that you're not? And so the idea came from there. And originally, the book was like a little more psychedelic of her like really losing herself in the identity and like losing a grip on reality. And it changed as we worked on it. But that core idea of giving yourself up for an ideal or for art or for success or for something that you want, that is like what the book is about. What would you sacrifice? What will you give up in order to achieve that goal? And what does that say about you? And the book is not saying one way or another whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, though I think we're all going to read it and have an opinion about that, right? But it definitely is about like, I mean, and it's a thing where you look at those people and you see them be performative. You see these TikTokers, you see whatever, and they are the extreme cases. But we are all doing that on social media to a certain extent,
For sure.
right? Like
Yeah.
everybody has an online persona, which may or may not be representative of who they actually are. And most of the time, it's like related to who you are, but it's not really who you are. And I
Right.
think that this is the book is called Everyone is Tulip for a reason. We all have this disconnect between our reality and the truth of who we are and this persona that we put out into the world that we want people to understand and know us as. And there's this like gap, right, between those two things that will never close. You could get it closer or you could get it further away, but there's always going to be a gap.
No, definitely, and I could for sure see that while I was reading. And one thing I thought was hilarious, my girl, me and Josh were talking about that as well. Once again, spoiler alert. I'm so sorry, but my girl Becca, like, she went to try out for the YouTube video, and then she was just like, yeah, talking to the woman that was helping her out, and she was just like, yeah, there was another girl here, and it's like, what happened? It was like, oh, they were in a whole relationship and it just didn't work out, and she proceeds to get right into a relationship with my man. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Well,
immediately, I'm like, okay.
yeah, Becca may not be like the sharpest crayon in the box.
I was just like, girl, come on now.
But also
But
like it is about her maybe not thinking things through, but it's also like that those are the options she thinks she has. This is what she thinks
yeah.
she has to do in order to be famous, which is all she really wants, or what she thinks she wants.
Oh, that's true. And
Mhm.
like I said, I get it. I think that's something that we've all dealt with before. That kind of being desperate or trying to reach for something, and it's you're failing over and over again, and it seems like you'll never get it. So yeah, all of that is definitely there. Like I said, it's a great work of art. Like I said, I really love it. So I think you
Yeah.
guys you guys did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
definitely. And one thing I also appreciate about the book is how I guess not just her past isn't like this like purple color scheme, but
Yeah.
just I guess like some the stuff that she's trying to get away from. Her moving out, living with her dad, and her thinking that it was I guess the right thing to do to break things off with Jack,
Mhm.
and even leaving the restaurant and stuff like that. Spoiler alert.
Late
Yeah,
spoiler,
I
latest
Yeah.
message.
yeah, we might have to
Oh
put
Yeah,
yeah.
there's
spoilers
so
on the
many
video
spoilers at this
'cause
point. We're just gonna
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
if
about it. It's
if you
fine.
got this far, you've been spoiled about a lot of things.
we're just talking about the whole book at this point. But
A spoiler review, right?
Yeah.
Spoilers everywhere, guys. If you guys have made it this
exactly.
far and you guys don't care about it, continue on, but we might spoil some more things in the future.
And
But
also, like
yeah,
the color thing, like having those purples, it's the way that I was talking about how manga is written as the experience being a teenager. So the colors are supposed to be how Becca experiences the world. So when she was in Arizona, everything is dull and flat and monotone because her life feels that way. And when she comes to LA, it's brighter, right? Like it's full color. We have all these pinks, we have all these different colors. And then the internet is even more colorful. But it's this weird sickly neon hue that it is brighter, but it is also like weirdly uncomfortably.
no, I definitely got that too. And speaking of all of the, like I said, different color motifs and like how it lends into the story overall, like how long did it take you guys to from beginning to end, idea to conception to get this book done? Like how long was that process for you?
Longer than I would like. um, we started working on this like conception, thought of the idea, I would say like the very end of 2016. And then I think we had a script or like part of a script by like maybe March of 2017. And so I did start working on it then. We pitched it around a little bit. We had someone who was interested, but we decided not to go with them. There was some stuff that happened. And then we were just going to make it. Like we weren't waiting for someone to tell us, yeah, you can do this, because we're coming off of self-publishing Fuck Off Squad, and we were just in the self-publishing mode. So it was very much like, we're going to pitch it around, and if no one wants it, we'll just make it ourselves. So we just started making it. And then a couple months later, we ran into Connor Knudsen, who is our editor at Dark Horse, at a show, and he was like, a friend of mine gave me Fuck Off Squad, do you guys have anything else like this? And we were like, well, actually,
Right.
but I was already like halfway through drawing it at that point. And then I also, at some point that year, I don't know what, in 2018, I got Batgirl. And because I think either when we started it or just because they were paying me more or whatever, like I had to focus on Batgirl. I had deadlines for that. And so I was working on both for probably half the book. So it was much slower because I did 5 pages a week of Batgirl, and then I would like maybe try and get 1 or 2 of Tulip. And then that finished and I got to do Tulip a little more. But then I got another book, the book that we have coming out in September, yay, for Phil's Bootleg
Right.
Society. So I was overlapping Tulip and that book. And other than the like very first chunk of it, I never really got to just focus on it. So it took twice as long as I wanted it to. And then there's also publishing stuff where you have to wait for print runs and marketing and blah, blah, blah. And there's just a lot of waiting that happens in comics, especially we had some delays because of the pandemic. So we got pushed significantly. I think we were supposed to come out in like February or something like that. And then the book didn't come out until June or something because everything got put on hold for 6 months at Dark Horse because nobody knew what was happening with pandemic and there were supply chain issues and all this stuff. So everything about the book was delayed because of the situations around it and because comics just take a really long time. So I wish I could do 2 books at once all the time and be fine and have it be fast, but it's just not feasible. And because of that situation of drawing 2 books for basically 2 years or whatever it was, I got really burnt out and had to like not do anything for a long time. So I'm trying not to do that again, but it does then mean that like you can't put out as much, which is very frustrating. Writing is so much faster. Sometimes I'm like, what if I was just a writer? That would be cool. I could work on so many books. Be James Tynion and do 10 books at once or whatever he's doing right now. A lot.
No, that's crazy. But look at what happened. You guys, there were some pushbacks, and there were it was things that was unforeseen. But now look at y'all, some big old Eisner Award
I
nominees.
know, right?
Look at that.
Yeah.
All
Got it.
man.
Right,
So
there
I
we
mean,
go.
hey, so I
Yeah,
think it
worth
all
it.
worked out.
Totally
Yeah.
worth
What are you and Dave cooking up now? What you guys got?
So our next book comes out in September. It's called Forest Hills Bootleg Society, and it is about a group of high school girls who go to a very Christian boarding school in the middle of nowhere, Central California. And they devise a plot to start a boot hentai ring in their very Christian high school, selling bootleg
Oh,
anime to
no.
boys. So it takes place
Love
in
it.
2005 when they were still had to have bootleg stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's about that obviously, but also about the relationships and this sort of traffic style drug dealing underground thing of what that does to their relationship within the context of there's on them, and also just all that like growing up stuff of being in like a very conservative environment and having these like weird growing pains of female friendships and first loves and those types of things.
Wow. Oh, that's gonna be a good read.
Like the premise alone already hooked me. I was like,
Yeah.
when you said, I was like, what?
Yeah.
I need more. I don't even know
Yeah.
anything about it, but I want more of it.
So when you guys drop, we're definitely gonna have you back on the show for sure.
Oh
Sounds
yes,
good.
yes,
We're
yes.
gonna-
Let us know when that
Definitely.
drops, because I
Yeah,
will
we're
be
gonna have to talk about
pre-ordering,
it.
buying,
Yeah.
or whatever.
It is on pre-order now. I want to say September
Oh, okay.
27th. Hopefully soon we'll be doing our press rounds or whatever for that. So we'll see. I need to talk to our team. It's coming out from Simon & Schuster. There's a little bit more support there than we've had in the past, which is super nice. We'll see how that goes. I'm very excited for it. There's already some reviews on Goodreads, which are mixed, of course.
Okay.
But I was like, how are there even reviews?
Right.
Cut out. There's arcs and stuff.
They're like the premise. I don't know.
they give advanced reader copies to like librarians and stuff, but I was like, oh wow, there's already this is weird. I was very surprised and then made the mistake of reading them, which never a good idea.
Reading reviews, we all got online haters, so we just
Honestly,
yeah.
I mostly just think they're funny.
exactly. But Nicole, it has been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for coming out. It's been a blast talking to you. Seriously.
Oh yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like I said, for all of our viewers and listeners out there, please go pick up. Fuck up. I'm tired. I'm so tired. Okay, fuck off squad, not fuck
There
up
you
squad,
go.
guys.
Hey.
I'm tired. So go pick up Fuck Off Squad. Go pick up everyone. It's Tulip. They are both amazing books, guys. And one thing we like to do before you get out of here, I know I just gave you a little bit of a push, but please tell all of our viewers and listeners everything you have coming out. If you have social media that you're on, let them know where you're at, where they can purchase your books. Let them know again that you're Eisner nominee, all of that good stuff.
Yeah. So if you are in the industry and want to vote for Everyone is Tulip for Best Digital Comic, that would be amazing. If you want to pre-order Forest Hills Bootleg Society, it is basically everywhere you can pre-order stuff. But if you go on the Simon & Schuster website, that might be the best spot. Everyone is Tulip is available everywhere. It's also for free, completely online at everyoneistulip.com. Yeah, my socials are at Nicole Goux on Twitter and TikTok, at ngoo on Instagram, and that's about it, I think.
Cool. Awesome. No worries for all of our viewers and listeners out there. We will definitely put all of that information in the description below. So no worries about that, guys. And yeah, man, this is the Score Roundtable podcast, guys. You can catch us on our website every week, and that website is scoreroundtablepod.fandomlim.com. And one more time, guys, that is squareroundtablepod.fandomlim.com. Go ahead.
And you can hit us up at the Square Roundtable Pod. And if you like the video, hit the notification bell underneath. And also like the video, share it with anybody you want to. Like, get the word out about this book and our podcast and everything. That will definitely help. Follow us on Instagram, our Twitter, and our pesky Facebook group. Y'all,
nah, man, you definitely need to come to the Facebook group, guys.
yeah, definitely go to the Facebook group.
Show us some love, man. Show us some. We need to have more people there than just our
We're
parents
nice,
and our
right?
aunts.
We're real
We're
nice,
nice.
man. Talk to
We're
us.
nice people, nice guys.
At this point, the newspaper columns isn't helping. Like,
I'm
No,
Right?
not at all, man. Not at all. But yeah, guys, just like Dmitri said, you can follow us on all of our social media platforms. We'll definitely love that, guys. Comment anything in the chat. We love to talk and, pretty much nerd out with you guys, man. So, with that being said, I would love everybody, including our amazing guest for the evening, to introduce themselves before we head out. And I am your host, Chad Singleton.
Dimitri.
I am Josh Singleton. Hashtag yes. Hashtag no.
Marcus, and remember, kids, it is okay to trace when you're starting out, because all artists do it. We all do it. Just had to say that. It is
There you
okay.
go.
True.
We all
It is
do it.
okay.
And I'm Nicole Goux, who obviously did Fuck Up Squad and Shadow of the Batgirl, and Everyone is Tulip, and now for Silver Sprocket Society.
Hey, and this has been the Score Roundtable podcast, guys. We are out. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.